to the Free Kick Podcast. My name is Todd, and what a night, what a home opener by your Philadelphia Union. And it all just seems so surreal. At least it does to me. I don't know about you guys, but being there last night in the stadium, watching the team warm up, listening to the fans chanting, it feels like we're still on from the season from last year because we have the same exact team. Nothing's changed except for adding better bench players. And so watching the team warm up, I was like, this is just unreal. Like, I got taken back to when we were playing New York City and thinking to myself, well, this is going to be the last time we ever see Kai Wagner at home. This is the last time that we could potentially see Jose Martinez at home. Will Julian Kranza get sold in the wintertime because he had such a great 2022 MLS season? And just sitting there, seeing every single player back again for 2023, it doesn't seem real. And you couldn't have asked for a better night other than the weather being warmer. But shout out to everyone who went to the game last night and you decided, you know what, I don't care how cold it gets. I am not missing this Philadelphia Union home opener. And I'll tell you what, that stadium was not full by any means compared to what it was during the playoffs. But when the Union tied the game up with Daniel Gazdag, I felt the press box shake once again. And I put out a tweet and I said, man, I've missed this feeling. And that's impressive, right? The first game of the season, it's cold, but that just tells you how excited people are for the 2023 Philadelphia Union. That's how excited people are to see this team, the joy this team brings people. And maybe some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And maybe you guys feel that same exact way. When you walked into the stadium, you just got a big smile on your face. You were just pumped. You were ready to go. And we're already one game into the MLS season. And it's crazy to think about when you look at this team, the Union are running it back. They realistically have a chance to be in all 6 competitions this year, to win 6 trophies, the Eastern Conference Championship, MLS Cup, US Open Cup, Supporters Shield, Leagues Cup, and CONCACAF Champions League. 6 trophies are on the line this season. And you've got to feel pretty confident that the Union could win multiple trophies this season. But what a night it was, getting to the stadium, seeing so many of you guys last night, and seeing some people, shout out Anthony, and a couple other people who I have no clue who they were, but they were like, hey, Todd, and I was like, hey, what's up? So yeah, it was nice running into people that we haven't seen for a few months, and then, you know, seeing everyone that went out to the Sons of Ben's new tailgate lot, and what a spot that is. And that was packed. That is one of the most packed tailgates, I want to say, that I've seen in a very long time for the Sons of Ben. Maybe it's because the space seems a little bit smaller, maybe, but it's very possible too that it's just a lot of people wanted to check out this new spot, and seeing the Sons of Ben march in, yeah, that was pretty awesome. And the Sons of Ben Keystone State Ultras, they brought it last night. Shout out to you guys for starting that. Go back to Ohio chant. That was pretty epic, and all the fans last night, they brought the energy, and it just feels good to be back in Subaru Park. Shout out to my buddy Andrew Deal for coming out with me to the stadium. Did a fantastic job live tweeting the game, coming up with that Daniel Gazdag meme, and catching that "Go Back to Ohio" chant in the river end. So it was great to catch back up with Andrew and have him there in the press box with me. Jordan Wigan, who I told you guys last episode, I was on his podcast to talk about the 2023 Philadelphia Union season. And it was great to see Jordan be in the press box as well last night and just running into the same old, same old. So, yeah, it's good to be back home and couldn't have asked for a better start to the 2023 season. But if you guys are new to the podcast, which I know there are quite a few of you that have just recently started listening to the podcast, and so maybe you guys aren't familiar with how we do the show during the season. And I'll give you guys the rundown right here, where I like to start off the show with giving you guys some MLS news, and then I'll go ahead and talk about the Columbus game. And then afterwards, then I'll give you guys starts to the game. I did keys to the game last episode, so we'll go over and see if I passed or failed with my keys to the game. And then we'll give goal breakdowns. And then we have a segment at the end that's called Blunder of the Week. And you guys got to let me know. I mean, should we continue doing Blunder of the Week, or should we just say, yeah, Blunder of the Week wasn't that great last year, so we're better off not hearing Blunder of the Week? Let me know. So we don't have a Blunder of the Week for this episode, but if that's something you guys want continuing on the show, we can definitely continue with Blunder of the Week. But without further ado, let's get straight into the news. So in case you guys missed it last week, the Philadelphia Union announced the signing of Nelson Pierre to a homegrown contract. The 17-year-old joined the Union Academy in 2014 and becomes the 20th homegrown player in Union history. Pierre is a member of the YSC Academy class of 2023, and he is on a guaranteed contract through 2026 with a team option for 2027. Ernst Tanner had this to say in the press release: "We have watched Nelson grow from a standout in our academy into an active, productive, high-ceiling striker on our Philadelphia Union 2 squad," said Ernst Tanner, Philadelphia Union Sporting Director. "He has always been an intelligent and mobile attacker, and we believe he has all the attributes needed to grow into a player capable of contributing goals at the MLS level." And for you guys who attempted to watch Union 2 games last year, shout out to you guys. After a couple games, I'm like, yeah, I cannot watch this. The camera quality sucked. Sometimes you didn't even get commentary during the game. And apparently it's supposed to be better this year with Apple. We'll see how true that really is. But last season with Union 2, Nelson played in 20 games, 7 starts, 738 minutes, and 5 goals. And let's be honest with ourselves. The Union do not have a great track record at all in developing strikers. Midfielders, defenders, goalkeepers, yeah, they're great in those departments, but strikers are the area that the Union lack. And there's a reason why. When you look all over the world, who are the most expensive players? Strikers. They're the hardest position to develop. It's hard to teach somebody to be a goal scorer. You know, that kind of comes natural. Yeah, you can coach up, get their positioning better, but it comes down to, is this player just a natural finisher? You can't teach that. And will that be what Nelson Pierre is for the Union? Maybe that's to be seen, but it's great to see the Union have given out a homegrown contract to a striker when it's always been goalkeeper, midfielder, and defender, like I said. So hopefully Nelson continues to develop with Union 2, and I'm sure with all the competitions that we're in this season, he'll get a chance here or there with the first team if he continues to impress with Union 2. But it's good to see the Union take care of that business and not potentially lose Nelson Pierre to overseas. So 20th homegrown signing in Union history. It's crazy. You guys remember the Zach Pfeffer days seemed like they were so long ago, but here we are, player number 20, Nelson Pierre. But let's go on to point number 2, and that is Major League Soccer and Adidas agreed to a multi-year extension of their partnership until 2030, which the deal is valued at $830 million, according to CNBC. And I know a lot of people are upset with this deal. They're tired of one brand supplying all jerseys in MLS, which I agree with that. I think teams should have the option to sign partnerships with whatever manufacturer they want to. But there's no denying that $830 million is a ton of money coming into MLS. I mean, you look at all the money MLS got for the Apple deal, and that's only going to continue to help the league grow. And for all those people, which I don't think anybody listening to this podcast is anti MLS. If you are, then I appreciate you checking out the podcast still. Maybe you guys just like the Philadelphia Union. That's why you listen. But I think this quiets all those pro rel people that say, oh, MLS can't last. MLS isn't going to be the top league in MLS because they don't have promotion relegation. Well, you add all the money they just got from Apple, now the money they're getting from Adidas. I don't see MLS going down ever, or at least not for a very, very, very long time. And you listen to Don Garber saying that by the end of the season, they want to announce franchise number 30, saying that Las Vegas and San Diego are the two front runners. He mentioned Phoenix too, and he said, why can't we go to Detroit, which is a top market in the United States? And so maybe it is possible we eventually see MLS at 32 teams. I mean, Don said what the smallest amount of teams compared to the rest of the professional sports leagues in America. So is it possible one day we get up there with the NFL, the NBA? Yeah, it's possible. He'll never say no. But one thing's for sure, MLS and Adidas, they obviously are happy with each other. They're happy with the results that they're getting from this partnership. So Adidas felt comfortable giving a hell of a lot of money to MLS. But again, just going back to the people that aren't happy with the deal, they want teams to get their own kit manufacturers. I agree, and especially when you look, players have to wear Adidas cleats unless they have a contract with another brand. I remember Jim Curtin said recently that the league started to fine him because he was wearing Nike shoes and the league wanted him to wear Adidas. And so then Nike comes around and gives him a sponsorship deal. And then because of that, Jim Curtin's able to wear Nike shoes and not get fined. But it's so stupid, right? And it's not only like coaches that they do this to, they do it to players too. If they don't have a sponsorship with that manufacturer, then the players are forced to wear Adidas. Now, I think that's a little bit silly. I mean, Adidas want to be on everything. I mean, you look at the jersey, like the Adidas logo stands out. Adidas is getting plenty of viewership on their products. And you see, doesn't matter what MLS stadium you go in MLS, you're going to see big banners of Adidas. Like we know Adidas is affiliated with Major League Soccer. You guys don't have to put it in our face that much. You guys don't have to go overboard and say these players need to wear cleats. It's a little bit too much, but I get it. When you're paying that much money to a league, you're going to want them to sponsor your product. But nice to see MLS get money for basically nothing. So for all you doubters out there that think MLS is going to go down, I don't think so. But let's go on to point number 3. And I told you guys last episode, I wanted to go on a rant about how some MLS PR teams wait last minute. They take all the possible time they can to release an injury report and how that's so amateur. And I didn't go on a rant too much, but this topic that I'm about to talk about, there's a chance that I go on a rant for a little bit, and I'll try not to go too long because I want to talk about the Philadelphia Union and Columbus Crew game. But point number 3, we've all seen it now. MLS finally confirms that the playoffs are moving to 9 teams per conference. The first round will be a best-of-3 series, while the rest of the playoffs will be single elimination with a higher seed hosting. The opening wildcard round will see teams which finish the regular season seeded 8th and 9th play a one-off match at the higher seed's venue. If a game in the wildcard match ends tied at the end of regulation, then the teams go into penalties. and the wild card matches will be played on October 25th and 26th. We move on to round 1 in the playoffs, which will ensure the number 1 seed faces the wild card winner, and 2 faces 7, 3 faces 6, and 4 faces 5. The round will be a best of 3 series with a higher seed hosting the first and, if necessary, third game. These games can end in ties. The first team to win 2 games advances to the conference semifinal. And so, just like the wild card game, if the game ends tied at the end of regulation, then they go straight into penalties. Whoever wins penalties wins game 1, 2, and 3, and depending on where they are in the series. And those games will last from October 28th to November 12th. And so after the best of 3, we go on to the conference semifinals and conference finals, which will be played between November 25th through December 3rd, and the MLS Cup final will be December 9th. A lot of issues here with this playoff format. 62 teams getting into the playoffs is a joke. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. The last couple months I've been listening to Extra Time, and I remember last year on Twitter Spaces where we talked about extra time here or there, how they haven't given the union their credit, how there's certain people on extra time that people can't stand. But I think I've come around to, extra time is a pretty good show. But they were talking about last week how, they're excited for this playoff format, how it's a good thing, how it's going to be so exciting. And I get it. They've got to say all that because they are MLS's official podcast. And part of it, I feel like some of the people on there, I feel like they really do. Like, not just because I work for MLS, but they really do feel like this playoff format's going to be great. I mean, how can this be great when we have the potential for 3 weeks off from round 1 to the conference semifinals if teams win the series in 2? You're having the potential to be off from 3 weeks until you play your next game. Does MLS not remember what happened in 2020 to the Union against New England? Do they not remember what happened in 2021 when New England lost to New York City? And what was the similarities between those 2 games when both teams were the number 1 seed? Oh, that's right. They had close to 3 weeks off. And we all know what happens. The Union said, we played a friendly, I forget against who. And New England also said that, they played a friendly against a team just to stay fit. But it's not the same playing a friendly against a weaker opposition team that isn't an MLS team. That's not the same. You can't replicate a playoff game in a friendly. And to have potentially 3 weeks off from round 1 to a conference semifinal, where after round 1, then the conference semifinals, the conference finals, and then MLS Cup, all those games go back to single elimination where the higher seed hosts the game. And so that's fine. I'm fine with that. But 3 weeks off, that's terrible. That's way too much time off. And not to mention, so once the MLS season ends at the beginning of October, teams have to wait all the way until October 20th just to start the playoffs. I mean, these playoffs are going to be dragged on for so long. I think last year, and Jim Curtin said it on his press conference last week, and he said it in the weeks prior, that the last 2 years, this is the best format MLS has ever had. And the teams that should have won. And last year, I get it. There was only one upset, and that was Cincinnati over New York Red Bulls. That was fun. That was exciting. Everybody knew how the playoffs worked, and you felt like it wasn't dragged on for too long. Kind of like I'm dragging on this section, right? But now MLS and Apple come in, and I get it. This is all Apple. Apple won as many games in the playoffs as they can get. the playoffs aren't going to be great. There's going to be too much time. There's going to be too much rest. Teams aren't going to be fit like they were at the end of the MLS regular season. Teams are going to try to stay locked in, ready to go for the playoffs. But I can guarantee you, we are going to see a ton of sloppy soccer. It's not going to be good. So hopefully this is a one and done playoff format. And hopefully Apple just says, you know what, we want good soccer. Even though we won a lot of games, let's go back to what it was in 2020 and 2021. And we get, 13 games throughout the playoffs compared to 24 games, right? Something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous from MLS, from Apple, that they are going to kill the playoff product because of too many days off. Too many days off. Too many days off. If I talk about this topic anymore, we're probably going to be here for 15 more minutes, and we still wouldn't have talked about the Philadelphia Union and Columbus game. So we're not going to talk about this terrible playoff format anymore. And I want to go ahead and give you guys point number 4, the last thing, which was Philadelphia Union Sporting Director Ernst Tanner was approached by the U.S. Soccer Federation in regards to their vacant sporting director position. Ernst Tanner declined it, and it was apparently offered to Peter Vermees, the sporting director and head coach of Sporting Kansas City. And isn't it funny how it worked out for the Union? They lose Ernie Stewart to the U.S., Ernst Tanner comes in. And now Ernie Stewart recommends Ernst Tanner to take his job again. I mean, come on, you can't make this stuff up. First, Ernst Tanner replaces Ernie Stewart at the Union. Does a lot better job than Ernie Stewart did with the Union. Now, to Ernie's credit, he was building something with the Union. They at least had plans in place. You can't say that prior to when Ernie joined, but Ernst Tanner has taken it to the next level with the Union. And to Ernie's credit, again, he was building something that was stable, I'll say. I won't say good. It was stable with the U.S. And now he leaves. And he says, yeah, why don't you guys try to get Ernst Tanner in here? And Ernst Tanner said, no, I'm not going and following you for a second time. I'm building something special here in Philadelphia. And so it's great to see Ernst Tanner turn that down and wanting to be in Philadelphia, just like Jim Curtin. And I got to give a shout out to The Athletic. They're the ones who reported this report. And if you guys aren't subscribed to The Athletic, I mean, there's great writing in there. And you guys may look at the price and say, yeah, this is a little bit too expensive. But The Athletic, they're always giving discounts. So keep your eyes peeled. Fantastic writing from Pablo, from Sam, from Paul, from Felipe, from Jeff Reuter. So many people, so many talented writers are contributing to The Athletic, and you get great articles all the time in regards to MLS and US soccer. So definitely check out The Athletic if you guys haven't. Not a sponsorship. Definitely not. It'd be awesome, though. But let's go on and talk about the Philadelphia Union versus Columbus Crew game. And we know that game ended in the Union's favor by a score of 4-1. And I just want to play Jim Curtin's comments right after the game.
I will rewind and start by saying this Columbus team is going to be very, very, very good. If you look at the first 15 minutes of the game tonight, we didn't touch the soccer ball. So, you can see the ideas that Wilfred's going to have with them, just how good they're going to be, how dangerous they're going to be of a team in the Eastern Conference this season. Having said that, it took our guys a little bit of time. As a coach, all you can try to do, and as a staff, give them ideas to solve problems when problems arise. And they gave us some real problems in the first 15 minutes. It's a unique formation and unique way of playing. You can prepare for it on tape, but once you see it live and the amount of technical players they have that can pass and move, like I said, we're trying to give our guys enough information that they can solve the problems in the run of play. I thought halfway through the first half, we started to get around the ball a little bit better. Our center backs kind of figured it out themselves that if they released more, with their midfielders or with Zelarayan when he'd come off the back line. It gave us more access to the ball. It turned them over a little bit, and we started to look like ourselves again.
And credit to Jim Curtin for, not really talking about his team's performance, but giving Columbus credit. And the scoreline doesn't do Columbus any justification. They were hard done by 2 penalties. And I think as Union fans, if they were given against you guys, against us, I think we all would have been upset. And unfortunately, they go against Columbus, and the scoreline looks a lot worse than what it truly was. And I agree with Jim. I think Columbus are going to be a much more improved team. Jim Curtin said it last week when we were previewing this game in his press conference. And he said that Wilfried Nancy has a lot more talented players in Columbus than he did with Montreal. And so because of that, they're going to be a lot better. And Jim's right. When you look at the first 15 minutes in terms of possession, it was Columbus up 77-23. The Union couldn't get close to the ball at all, just like he said. And the Union had 5 or 6 fouls called against them early on. And I thought to myself, wow, this is going to be one of those nights where the referee's just going to make the game all about himself, where he's blowing the whistle every single time someone gets touched. And when that happens, it really slows down the speed of play. And don't get me wrong, there was 27 fouls called in the game, which is a lot of stoppages. But it wound up being more Columbus getting fouls against them and yellow cards as well. And I think we saw early on in the second half and that Columbus started to let their frustration get the best of them. They started fouling, and they would give away free kicks in dangerous areas of the field. And Cucho dives in the box because Columbus aren't getting any calls for them. And the referee gives Cucho a yellow card. Lucas Zelarayan, he gets a tough tackle on Jose Martinez. He gets a yellow card. And I was shocked. I really was shocked that the Union didn't let that affect their mentality the first 15 minutes of the game when they can't touch the ball, like Jim said, when they can't put passes together. And they're getting fouls called against them. You, maybe not everybody, but some people, I'm sure I felt like they probably thought the same as me, where, the Union are going to be in trouble. They're going to get people on yellow cards early on in this match. They're going to give away dangerous opportunities to Columbus, where they have one of the best set piece takers in Lucas Zelarayan, and it's going to cost the Union. And fortunately for the Union, it did not. But again, that's just a credit for the Union, not letting that affect their game plan and for weathering the storm. And Jim Curtin agreed with that.
Yeah, I think the referee did a good job overall in the night. I thought he was sharp. A couple little bounces. I thought every 50-50, every little bounce didn't go our way at the beginning of the game. Even when they almost passed directly to us, it was like we were surprised and mistouched the ball that we'd usually be a little cleaner and more clinical with. So overall, the guys, continue to improve. But certainly, they do have a strong mentality and they don't get too high or too low during the course of the 90 minutes. So, to the continuity point, they've grinded out these types of wins together for a lot of years now, and that's a strong thing. And they, like I said, they don't let referee calls or anything like that, or even going down a goal at home, which is tough. They don't let that bother them.
Yeah, and it's impressive too that the Union didn't allow that goal that they conceded affect them. They played better, kind of gave them a wake-up call. And it's interesting too when you look at it, the Union don't give up the first goal at home at all. When you look last season, they only did it twice. They only conceded first at home 2 times all season long. And they come out and do it in the first game of the season. I mean, it's unheard of. And they were able to just get that wake-up call and really bring it to Columbus. And I was sitting in the press box with Andrew, and we both agreed that Columbus were the better team in the first half, that the Union really didn't deserve to be tied going into the half. Columbus, they're the ones who allowed the Union back into the match with stupid fouls and giveaways. It wasn't because of what the Union were doing. The Union grew into the game in the last 10, 12 minutes, where they outshot Columbus 4-1, outpassed Columbus 82-67. Credit has to go to the Union center backs as well. And Jim Curtin, you guys heard it, credited the center backs for figuring out the issues during the first half, where Elliott and Glesnes were playing a high line, or higher than what we've normally seen them play in the past. And so they make adjustments and start to get tighter to the player that they're supposed to mark, whichever side the ball is on. And then that leaves the Union's players in 1v1 situations against Columbus's players, which, we played so often last year, where we would put our center backs up in 1v1 situations, and more times than not, our center backs would get the best out of whoever they were marking. And once the Union started playing that way last night, it worked out once again for the Union. Was this the perfect game for them? No, I don't think it was. But it was nice to see them, like I said, come from behind at home and win this game, score 4 unanswered goals. And like I mentioned, Columbus, they were unlucky, unfortunate to give away 2 penalties in this game. But, you've got to be better. You've got to be better than that. You can't let what the referees called against you affect you. It certainly didn't affect the Union early on in this match, and you got the sense that that wasn't the case with Columbus when they were getting called for foul after foul, and then the yellow cards started coming out, and some players started to get a little bit animated with the referees. And before we talk about the other topics, I got to give a shout out to Philip Quinton. I thought he played an excellent game for the Crew. One of the best players on the night, in my opinion. He has really good positioning, good pace for a big man. And yeah, we all know he got done by Joaquin Torres on that turn where he assisted Julian Kranza. But I don't know, I was just really impressed by him, a player that recently was called up from Columbus too. And now seeing him in person, really paying attention to him, I think it's obvious why they let Jonathan Menza go. Quinton looks like he could be a serious piece for Columbus for years to come. And again, that's a credit, I think, to Wilfred Nancy, where he believes in playing young players. He did the same thing in Montreal, and his first game in charge in Columbus, he does the same thing, plays younger players when they had some older, experienced players on the bench. And did you guys, speaking of The Athletic earlier, I don't know how many of you guys saw this quote in The Athletic. If not, maybe you guys know what I'm talking about. Maybe you don't. But there was a survey given to executives around the league that asked, all right, which team is the favorite to win MLS Cup? And one of these executives said, the thing is, they're not even that effing good. It kind of hurts me to pick them. All they do is kick the shit out of you. They're always ready to play. That's great. That's good coaching. All that stuff. But they're just not great. They have a way of doing things and they're consistent, but it's not like the quality is amazing. I mean, to say that, I mean, you sound so hurt. You sound so bitter. And the fact that you do it anonymously, I mean, the Union did not need any bulletin board material after everybody's picking them as favorites. Everybody's saying they're going to win MLS Cup. They're going to win Eastern Conference Championship. They're the best team in MLS. And now they've got one person that is making them the underdogs, and they thrive. They absolutely thrive in that role. And here's some idiot saying, oh, yeah, they're not good. And now you've just given this team motivation that they did not need. And this is what Jim Curtin had to say.
Oh, the anonymous quote. First of all, anonymous quotes are for cowards, and people are very brave when they make anonymous quotes. I went through all the people it possibly could have been, and there's like 2 or 3 that would come off as a loving quote and kind of an appreciative quote that could possibly be. There's a couple that if it's them, I'd love to find out who said it. We did use it in the film session yesterday. I reminded the guys, yes, everybody's in love with us right now and picking us to win the Eastern Conference, but championships aren't won on paper. Paper means nothing. So we have to we still have a doubter, out there, in whoever made that quote. So it always motivates the guys. But again, I will go on record saying people that give anonymous quotes are cowards.
Yeah, I mean, I could have said it better. To say something that insane and not put your name on it, I mean, come on now. Now, I did have this thought, though. I was like, wouldn't that be something if it's Ernst Tanner who said this quote, knowing that everybody's picking your team to be the favorite? Everybody is expecting you to win some trophies this season. And so how can we get these players to stay motivated, keeping them humble? Well, you can say something so ridiculous, just like this quote. And could it have been Ernst Tanner? I don't know. Maybe it could have. Maybe that's how you keep these players motivated. But I think one thing is for sure, and they're going to be motivated this season. Just to prove that one person wrong, whoever they may be. Maybe it's Ernst Tanner trying to keep these players motivated. Maybe it isn't. But why you would say something that ridiculous is beyond me. Like, the stats speak for themselves. The Union have the most points in MLS since 2019 in the last 5 years. And you go ahead and say they're not even that good, but then you give them the compliment and saying they're consistent, it's good coaching. Like, no crap. Like, isn't that what you want from your team? To be consistent. And you say, yeah, they're not good. But they're good at being consistent, right? Come on now. But let's go ahead and review my keys to the game. And so last episode, I said number 1, you got to force Zelarayan and Nagbe to force a lot of balls sideways and backwards. That is 100% a pass. If you guys go ahead and look up the heat maps, whether it be on SofaScore or whether it be on Who Scored, you can get both the heat maps from Darlington Nagbe and Lucas Zelarayan on those websites if you guys are curious to see this, since we all know I don't do video. But yeah, Darlington Nagbe wasn't in any dangerous areas in this game. Lucas Zelarayan was not dangerous inside the penalty area. They kept him way outside of the 18-yard box, had him drop really, really deep in this game. And that's a credit to, like Jim Curtin said, the center backs and figuring out how we're going to play against this unique formation. And you had Jose Martinez doing a fantastic job on the night. Seeing Columbus come out here and play with 2 10s was a little bit surprising for me. But at the same time, too, it shouldn't be that surprising because we saw Montreal do the same thing at times last year. But the Union did a really good job to take out all the danger men. And when we break down the goals, especially that first goal that was an own goal by Jacob Glesnes, the Union were fine giving Cucho the space where he shot outside the box, where, again, we saw a lot of shots outside the box from Cucho, and some of them went in last year, some of them did not. And the Union were betting on Andre Blake to make those saves because he's the best goalkeeper in MLS. But it was a strong performance from the Union once they figured out the formation, how to deal with that against Columbus. Number 2, I said need shots on target because the last 2 times that the Union played at home against Wilfried Nancy's Montreal, the Union went ahead once and conceded first the other time. Which, again, going back, remember I said the Union only conceded twice first at home twice last season. And it happens again with a Wilfried Nancy team, this time with Columbus. And those 2 games against Montreal last year, the Union went 1 for 3 and 1 for 13 with shots on target in those 2 matches at home against Montreal. Last night, I would say that's a pass because the Union had 5 for 14 shots on target. They scored 4 goals. They looked a lot better against Columbus than they did the last 2 times Wilfred Nancy came to town with Montreal. And number 3, I said start fast, and that is a fail. What more do we need to say that I haven't beat home already? That the Union couldn't touch the ball in the first 15 minutes, couldn't get a shot on target until I think the 27th minute, 35th minute. No, it was the 35th minute for sure. So, yeah, 2 out of 3 passes for the Union. Overall, they hit on majority of my keys to the game, and I think those 3 keys were a strong reason why the Union were successful. Let's go ahead and move on to my 3 stars on the night. Number 1, we'll start from 1 to 3. Number 1, Daniel Gazdag, 2 goals, 2 assists, 3 for 4 ground duels won, and 6 ball recoveries. And Daniel Gazdag, he's not your traditional number 10. How many 10s in the world? Well, 1. What is a traditional 10? We've talked about that in the past too before, where your playmakers, that's what you consider your 10s, your traditional 10s at least. They're a rare art to find now in the game, I feel like. I feel like the 10s are more so what Daniel Gazdag is a shooting number 10, not an assisting number 10, not a playmaking number 10. And you look, those kind of number 10s don't really play defense. And that's what you get with Daniel Gazdag. 6 ball recoveries, 3 out of 4 ground duels won. He is not your typical number 10, but he's also not your traditional number 10 where he's a playmaker. I mean, the Union are fortunate to have a player like Daniel Gazdag, and there's a reason why they made him a DP player this season. And 2 goals on the night, 2 assists. Great to see him continuing that form from what should have been a finalist appearance for him in the MVP vote last season. And number 2 on the night, Julian Carranza. I think it's so close between him and Daniel Gazdag for MVP on the night, for the number 1 start on the night. Carranza had 2 goals, 4 out of 8 ground duels won. He also had 4 ball recoveries. And you look at strikers. Strikers don't like to play defense either, just like 10s don't. And you get a great defensive forward in Julian Carranza. And Jim Curtin was full of praise for the performance Julian had last night.
Yeah, he's had, first of all, he had an amazing preseason. He's really, really sharp right now. Again, Ernst is going to have to fend off interest already. Lots is already coming for him. He's very, very talented. The ability that he has is really high. I'm always going to continue to be hard on him and challenge him. I think he's bought in incredibly well to the defensive side of the ball and really being that first line of defense for us and breaking up plays and turning center backs over and then getting the quote unquote easier goals. Tonight he scored some really tough goals. I think he could have scored a couple more of the easier variety. But he's a true striker. He wants to score every night. He knows that's how he's judged. He's angry. He's probably very angry that he didn't get to take the penalty kicks. You know, that's the type of striker he is. Every good striker, every great striker I've ever been around or played with has a little bit of that nastiness in him. I'll put it this way. He kicks the center backs just as much as they kick him, which is a good quality to have. So you feel him when you play against him. Can't say enough good things about Julian, and it's going to be a special season for him. I hope it's a full season. That's all I'll say, because he's playing really well already.
I mean, Jim's right, honestly. 14 goals, 9 assists last year for Julian. 2 goals on the home opener. You see why Julian was brought in by Inter Miami. And unfortunately, for Miami's sake, it didn't work out. They couldn't get the best out of Julian Carranza. He goes into the Philadelphia Union system, and he's exactly the player that Miami thought that they were getting, the player that they knew they were scouting. They knew his potential. And that's a credit to Miami for identifying Julian Carranza, but they didn't have the coaching staff, the infrastructure to get the best out of Julian Carranza like the Union are. And I was thinking about this after I got home last night and right before I went to bed. And I was like, I need to put this down in my notes. And that is Julian Carranza better than Tati Castellanos? Will either of those 2 strikers play for the Argentina national team? Is Julian Carranza better than Lautaro Martinez. Now, I don't think that's true. I don't think Julian Carranza is better than Martinez, but I think it's very possible that Julian Carranza, once he leaves MLS, will start getting looks from the Argentina national team. I don't know if I'm ready to say Julian Carranza is better than Tati Castellanos, but that is the player. That is the player that you compare him to. Jim Curtin did it multiple times last season, said that he reminds him so much of Tati Castellanos, a lot more of an expensive version of Tati, but both of these players are so similar, and I feel like when the day comes, not if, it's a matter of when Julian Carranza goes to Europe, I think he's going to have a better impact his first time in Europe than what Tati Castellanos is currently doing in Spain. And give it a couple more months, maybe, I could see the argument that Julian Carranza is better than Tati Castellanos. I think you put Tati Castellanos in the Union system, I think you would have the same productivity that you're getting out of Julian Carranza. But I think overall, Julian Carranza has more potential than Tati. So I will say, from a potential standpoint, yes, Julian Carranza is better on that level than Tati Castellanos. But right now, Tati Castellanos, if he was still in MLS, I think is the better striker. But Julian Carranza will be the better player. And I do think both of those players eventually will play for the national team. And the reason I bring up Lautaro Martinez is he's not a great striker, which is crazy that I'm even saying that when he scored over 70 goals for Inter Milan and he scored over 20 goals with the Argentina national team. But he doesn't fit into what I think the national team wants in their striker, which is also crazy saying that since they just won the World Cup. But I don't know. I feel like that's the one area, if you want to nitpick the Argentina national team, that they're not happy with their strikers, even though they always produce quality strikers. I think Alvarez from Man City, I think that's the guy. That's the number one guy. That's going to be their future superstar for years to come in the national team. And I think that's going to be the guy that Julian Carranza fights for minutes for in the national team once he gets his call up. I don't think he'll get called up to the national team when he's with the Union. But if he does, then that alone tells you the potential of Julian Carranza. And number 3, sorry if I confused anybody there. Number 3, Jose Martinez, 1 for 2 tackles, 8 ball recoveries. You saw in the 26th minute, the Union's best chance in the game came from Jose Martinez. He chips the ball over the top, over the center backs, to Ale Bedoya, who lays it off to Carranza, who misses wide. Had a wide open net, and fortunately for him in the Union, the referee raises his flag for Bedoya for offsides, and it still was a bad miss, but at least if Julian would have scored, it wouldn't have mattered because of offsides. So, yeah, people would have been upset if he scored that, and then it's offsides, but I feel like people are more forgiving because the offsides flag went up. And then we saw in the 35th minute, the Union finally got their first shot on target with Daniel Gazdag. Who starts that play? It's Jose Martinez. He plays the ball out wide to Ale Bedoya, who then has time and space to lift his head, and he finds Daniel Gazdag open at the top of the 18. Gazdag hits a low-driven shot at Schulte, the young goalkeeper for Columbus, who makes an easy save. And then in the 52nd minute, and we'll break this down when we go over our goals next segment, you see Jose Martinez, he dispossesses Lucas Zelarayan. He finds Daniel Gazdag wide open. The Union have a 4-on-3 man advantage. Gazdag slots the ball to his right to a wide open Bedoya, who slots the ball low on the ground to Julian Carranza, who puts it in the back of the net. Now, I guess I don't really have to break down that play at all since I just broke it down there. But yeah, Jose Martinez was fantastic. Glad to have Jose back with the Union for another season. And so let's go ahead and talk about that first goal of the night, which is courtesy of a Jacob Glesnes own goal. And so you have Bizo going up for a header, wins the header. And you have Jose Martinez and Adam Morris then going up from the ball that Bizo wins. Adam Morris wins the ball, falls kindly to Darlington Nagbe, and nobody picks up Darlington Nagbe. And Darlington Nagbe is just going to go ahead and dribble into this space, and he has a lot of space to run into. So you have Columbus having 4 players go up in Lucas Celarayan, Matan, Darlington Nagbe, and Cucho. You have Bizo paying attention to Zelarayan, Jacob Glesnes paying attention to Matan. You have Jack Elliott paying attention to Cucho, but he's really focusing on the ball of Darlington Nagbe. And then you have Kai Wagner paying attention to the run of Cucho Hernandez. And to Darlington Nagbe's credit, he's still able to get away from Daniel Gazag, from Leon Flock, from Jose Martinez. And so he's still able to dribble into the space because none of the midfielders are slowing him down. And so Jack Elliott steps to the ball, and Darlington Nagbe is then going to go ahead and lay the ball off to Cucho. And Cucho, like we've seen last season, he loves shooting from outside the box. And so by the time that the ball falls to Cucho, you have Farsi making an overlapping run on the right side of him, where probably should have laid that ball off. It would have been a better opportunity. You see Kai Wagner playing the ball, and he's also playing the run. You have Jack Elliott, who's out of position because he had a step to Darlington Nagbe. And you have Matan that's in the box one-on-one versus Jacob Glesnes, and he's just going to make this darting run towards the near post of Andre Blake. And Cucho is going to send in a shot. It wasn't a pass. It was 100% a shot. It was a great run-in by Matan. And unfortunate for the Union, it takes a deflection off of Jacob Glesnes and kind of throws Andre Blake off his timing of saving this ball. We go on to the game tying goal from the Union in the 45th minute, courtesy of a Kai Wagner free kick. It was a foul from Lucas Zelarayan on Kai Wagner towards the left touchline, about 35 yards out. And Kai Wagner is going to go ahead and play a ball here all the way to the far post to Jack Elliott. Jack Elliott wins the header, because of course he does. And Ale Bedoya has a free shot on goal, gets blocked. The ball ricochets to Jacob Glesnes, who chests the ball down. Thought about a shot, but you have Leon Flock, who's wide open. Nobody's marking Leon Flock. Everybody on Columbus, 1, 2, 3, 4 players are paying attention to Jacob Glesnes having this ball. And to Columbus's credit, they take away the angle to shoot this ball that Glesnes had. And so he's going to go ahead and square the ball to Leon Flock. And by the time that the ball falls to Leon Flock, he's going to hit this first time and hits the ball against Farsi's arm. And I don't have to break down the penalty at all. But yeah, interesting play there by the Union. Always go for a post. And just like we saw in the MLS Cup final, Jack Elliott was a huge assist for the Union on set pieces, like he was in this game against Columbus. And the next goal came courtesy of Julian Carranza, his first of the night in the 52nd minute. And we're going to see here from Julian Carranza. This is the play I told you guys about where Jose Martinez dispossesses the ball from Lucas Zelarayan. And by the time that he does that, you have Darlington Nagbe, who's pushed up the field because he expects Columbus to go on the counterattack. And because of that, he's out of position. Aiden Morris is now out of position to try to win the ball back from Jose Martinez. And to Martinez's credit, he's fending off the challenge from Lucas Zelarayan and finds Daniel Gazag wide open. And so as soon as that ball falls to Daniel Gazag, you have a 4-on-3 advantage from the Union. It's now about picking that right pass. And so Daniel Gazdag, and what I love about him, you, as a coach, you want to teach your players this all the time, where before they receive the ball, they want to check over their shoulder. And that's exactly what he does. You want your player to know where the pressure's at, where players are at. And so before he receives the ball, he does a little check over his left shoulder and sees, nobody's with me. I have tons of space to run into. And so he takes a beautiful first touch and just dribbles into that far space. And so by the time that Daniel Gazlag's dribbling towards the top of the 18, you have both center backs now of Columbus going towards the ball. You have Quinton marking the run of Julian Carranza. You have Ale Bedoya free on the right side of you. And you also have Mikael Uhr if you want to play that ball out left. Daniel makes the right pass to Ale Bedoya. Beautiful run by Ale. Ale is going to go ahead and take that first time, plays the ball into Julian Carranza. And it's a terrific finish from Julian Carranza on his first goal of the night. But again, that starts with Jose Martinez dispossessing Lucas Zelarayan and then fending off the challenge from Zelarayan and the pressure from Darlington Nagbe and Aiden Morris. Credit to Columbus for the press, but it's an even better pass by Jose Martinez to realize I'm getting a lot of pressure on me right here. And so that puts the Union up 2-1. And we got to go in the 72nd minute where we see a goal from Daniel Gazdag off of another penalty in this match. And so this comes from really a nothing play. The Union are going to go ahead and recycle this ball eventually. And the ball eventually falls to Kai Wagner at the top of the 18-yard box. And Wagner shoots it. We all know that it takes a deflection. We think it's going to be a corner kick. But he says, no, that took a deflection off his arm. And again, we talked about it in the first half of the show where a lot of these issues that Columbus created weren't because the Union did anything good. It's because Columbus made a lot of mistakes, and the Union just took advantage of these mistakes by Columbus. And so you get your penalty, and I don't have to break down the penalty. And then, what a special goal. What a special goal, the fourth goal of the night. Joaquin Torres couldn't have been on the field for more than 30 seconds. Columbus, they get the ball dispossessed by them once again. And we see Daniel Gazdag play the ball into Joaquin Torres. He's the only one that's far forward. You have Julian Carranza making a late run on the left side of the field. And so what's Joaquin do? You can't teach this. He does a beautiful spin on Quinton. And then he does a nice little spin again on Darlington Nagbe. And by the time all this is going on, Julian Carranza is just going to make this dashing run across the midfield. He's just going to run off the back shoulder of the two center backs. And Joaquin Torres, after he does his two spin moves, he sees that run by Julian Carranza. And it's a beautiful left-footed pass. First time finish by Julian Carranza. Fantastic finish. And yeah, I think a lot of people were amazed by the dribble of Joaquin. I mean, I was too. But I think what I'm more impressed by was he knew the run of Julian Carranza. And he's able to get this ball in. I mean, he places it in the most perfect position. It gets by Darlington Nagbe. It gets by Quinton, who was caught out of position because of Joaquin Torres making that dribble. But the weighted pass, you couldn't have weighted that any better. And that's all Joaquin Torres right there. And you're going to be loved in Philadelphia. That's how you make your name known. And what a play, what a night it was, like I said at the beginning of the show, from the Philadelphia Union. And so that's all for the show today. And we're going to hopefully have somebody on from Inter Miami during the week to preview that upcoming game. And eventually, for the goal breakdowns, I want to make a YouTube page and show you guys what I'm talking about when I'm explaining it. Because I feel like it would be a lot better if you guys saw what I was pointing out on the screen as opposed to just talking about it. And the one issue that I'm having is the recording softwares that I use to record the videos. One, it kills the video quality. And then two, the video is just so laggy. And so I'm in the process of trying to get that figured out, how to have the picture quality have no lag and then put that video into the telestrator that I use and make it a lot more prettier for you guys to see what I'm talking about. So I would have that segment on YouTube as well as having that segment still on the show. But I feel like some people are better visual learners than they are listening. I know I am for sure. And so I want to make that tool available, but I got to figure out why the video is getting so distorted. So if I don't have it figured out, maybe you guys have suggestions what I can fix on my laptop. Maybe you guys have a program that you guys run. I'm open to all suggestions. But if you guys aren't following the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow at Free Kick Pod, wherever you get your podcasts of The Free Kick. And I'm also, I'm all about trying to get help. If people are willing to help, I will take it. Not to go on another rant, but I'm running into a problem with the website where I try to share the link on Twitter or Facebook, and the link's not putting the picture in it. And I've Googled all these different options how to try to fix that, and nothing seems to be working. Sometimes I can post a link and the picture's there, but more times than not, the picture is not there. So I'm having to post just a random picture and then the link. And I guess that works too, but I don't know. I want the picture to work with the link. So if you guys know how to fix that too, hit me up. I would take all the help I can get in fixing something that seems like it should be so simple to fix. But I knew this was going to be a long episode. The first game back of the season, a lot to talk about. Super excited to get back to our same routine. So my apologies to people that are like, oh man, this is way too long of an episode. But some people that I talk to, they're like, oh, the episodes aren't long enough. So maybe this was more of your cup of tea. Again, I'm open to all criticism, good and bad. So without further ado, my name is Todd, and this is The Free Kick Podcast.